one to the meeting here, and Karen, would you read out the notice of summons and take the attendance and read the broadcasting statement, please?
Yes, that's fine, Chair. Members, you are hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Health and Community Committee to be held remotely on Thursday, the 13th of January 2022 at 4 p.m. So I commence, members, firstly with the attendance. So Alderman Devaney.
Here, Karen.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Guy. Alderman Kerrigan.
Here, Karen.
Councillor Sonoya Barr.
Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle, Michaela. Councillor Carr.
Karen.
Councillor Duffy.
Sure.
Councillor Edwards.
And Karen.
Councillor Farrell.
What's that mute?
Here.
Councillor Ferguson.
Speaker.
Here, Karen.
Councillor Fleming.
Karen, just hold on. Could I just advise members to, when not speaking, to keep their mics off, please? There's a lot of noise, background noise. Thanks. Go ahead, Karen. Sorry about
that. Councillor Harkin. Councillor Harkin. Councillor McGinley.
And Shaw, Karen.
And Councillor Tierney.
Here, Karen.
Okay. And I suppose, can I just double check Councillor Harkin? Alderman Guy. And Councillor Michaela Boyle. Okay, thank you, members.
Thank
members,
you. Go ahead, Karen.
The statement for the remote meeting, Chair. I would like to remind everyone who is in remote attendance that this meeting will be broadcast live via the Council's YouTube channel and will also be available for viewing by the public and media. The broadcast will also be available for repeated viewing at a later date. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with Council protocol. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. By participating in this meeting, you're consented to being filmed and to use the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website, www.derrystrabane.com. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. And I just noticed Councillor Harkin has sent a message in there. I think he's online there now. We'll move on to item 4. Any declarations of interest can be declared now, or as we move through the meeting, put them in the chat box and give the item number coming forward. We move on to item 5. Members, there's a delay in the deputation from Sharon McCullough regarding Rosemount Resource Centre. She has a medical appointment, and I'm led to believe that she should be online in around 5 o'clock. And I would ask members, would it be okay to move on with the business of the meeting? And when Sharon becomes available, we take that item then. Would members be happy with that?
Chair, can I come on this issue, please?
Yes, come on. Yes, Brian.
Chair, thank you. It's not in relation. Well, I suppose it is in relation to when we take the deputation. Obviously, Sharon's not here at the minute, and it can be delayed, which we have no issue with. But Chair, I would have more concerns around whether or not we're going to hear this deputation in open or in confidential business. And I would like to get, I suppose, a legal opinion on this. I have genuine concerns that there may or there will be staffing issues raised within this deputation, questions either and possibly answers from the department I also would be worried that there may be funding issues raised and financial issues raised within this deputation. And I do know, and Chair, you will know this yourself, we don't discuss our own staffing issues in open business. Therefore, I don't think we should be discussing anyone else's. And I would prefer that we had a discussion about this now, and we took a member's view, but also a legal opinion on that as well, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brian, for that. And I do agree with most of it. But I would pass back to maybe Karen. Would you like to say on it, or do we go just straight to our city solicitor?
Chair, I think just to clarify, a legal view was sought. So the agenda indicates the meeting will be in public. So Philip, do you want to give clarification, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, the legal position, as all members are aware, is that the business of council is dealt with in open business unless it falls within one of the criteria that are set out in the 2014 Act in terms of information that is exempt from that. Those are set out in our papers. At the present time, I don't know, although I would have an idea, I suppose, as to what's going to be contained within the deputation information. So it's appropriate that it starts in open business. But obviously, if it strays into, and I agree with the member, I think it is almost inevitable that it will stray in to those issues that would fall within the categories. Then at that stage, it would be appropriate to seek to stop it and take it into confidential business. But I think it has to start in open business. It's on the agenda in open business, so it'll have to commence in open business. And it's if we stray into those areas at that stage, then we can move it into confidential business. It may well be that members ask questions which the speaker, which simply could not be answered in open business, not constructively anyway.
Yep. Do you want to come back, Brian? Yep, come ahead.
Chair, thank you, and thanks to Philip and Karen for that answer. And as is normal, we'll take their lead. I appreciate what Philip's saying around the process and around the Northern Ireland Act of 2014. Whilst it may fall under that, and I think he agreed with me that it is inevitable that it is going to stray into going into confidential. So just one further question, and I'll leave it there. Whose responsibility is it to monitor when we should move into confidential? Is it the responsibility of members? Is it the responsibility of yourself as chair? Is it the responsibility of the DFC representative, or is it the responsibility of the city solicitor and other senior officers on this meeting?
Do you want to come back on that, Philip, or have you an answer for that? I think we have a collective responsibility here as members of the committee, along with our officers and our city solicitor here, to keep an eye on the business. And if they feel it is straying into those areas that should be in confidential, it should be nipped in the bud right away. And the question and halted them. I think that's the way I would take it. What do you think about that, Brian?
Well, I think you're right. I think we all have a collective responsibility to make sure that we're not straying into anything that should be in confidential business, or straying into something that you can't stand over in a public forum. I do have concerns, but we'll play it out and see what happens. I would just also add a concern that, I think people the answers may be diluted because we're in a public forum. And maybe for some people, the questions may be diluted as well because we're in a public forum. But that's just a concern. But as I said, Chair, I'm happy that we kick it off in open business, going by the advice from the city solicitor, and we'll play it by ear and see how we get on. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Doyle, do you want in on this part of the business?
Please, Chair. I appreciate your calling on me. I'm not a member of the committee. In terms of, I can understand what is being said, but I do think that we also have a responsibility and a duty to those constituents who have come to us about this, to conduct as much, if not all, of the business that we will be conducting with at that agenda item in public business. because I mean I genuinely wouldn't feel comfortable engaging in any kind of business regarding relating to this in confidential, because I mean look, the individuals have come to us in good faith. They did so transparently. We should be seeking answers transparently. And I know that's not what other people are suggesting, that it's not going to be transparent, but it's very important that people get answers to their questions today. I have a number, and it's on behalf of those members of staff who have come to us originally. We do, yes, have a responsibility when it strays into certain aspects, not to have it in public business, but I think all of us should be very cognizant of the fact that people deserve answers today. They deserve it on the record, and we should, as much as possible, try to ensure as members and staff that as much of the public business is conducted for people to see as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle, for that. I take on your concerns, but you know there are concerns at the end of the day and around confidentiality, and we have rules and regulations and around that, so we just need to be mindful. Councillor Tierney, do you want back in just?
Thanks, Chair. If you don't mind, just to clear it up, this wasn't about avoiding difficult questions being asked. This was about getting the answers. And making sure that we could get the answers and that we weren't held back by the constraints of open business. It was also, and Councillor Doyle's right, it was about getting answers for the individuals who came forward to us, but it was also about protecting them, protecting the integrity of the organisation, and protecting the people, everyone who is involved with this particular agenda item, and making sure that we could do that in a way that everyone was able to speak freely. And the constraints of open business was not holding them back. It's not about trying to avoid transparency or anything like that. It's about trying to make sure that we get to the bottom of this issue and we're able to move this issue on and use whatever influence that we have to try and make sure that we're finding out exactly how we can do that. It's not about avoiding transparency in any way.
No, thank you, Councillor Tierney, for that. And I think we've aired it. We're going to open the business up in public and see where it leads us. And look, if we stray into that, we need to be cognizant of it, that we need to halt. And look, I think my information is quite a number of the questions have been forwarded to Sharon McCullough. Would that be right, Karen? Was it?
Chair, we wrote to members and invited prior submission of questions. So the department could respond very specifically to the issues and concerns of members. We have received some. We shared those earlier this morning, and my understanding is that the format of tonight's input by DFC will be to answer questions as put by members, and they won't be having any form of presentation.
That's okay, Karen. Thank you very much. We move on to our next item of business, which is Chairperson's business. I have no Chairperson's business to bring forward today, just to wish everyone a happy new year as we move forward. I have one indicated speaker that has spoken to me about coming in under Chairperson's business about Bishopsfield and the Craigan is Councillor McGinley.
Good Chair, for allowing me in to raise this. It's just that an issue that's been raised with me recently is the provision within the city for GAA teams in particular to be able to avail of floodlit pitches to allow them to continue their training throughout the winter months. I've been engaging with my local club, which would be Shandolan's GAC, around this issue, and they've outlined that it's a vicious circle where they experience every year due to this, that they lose children each winter, and then they have to begin that recruitment process again once they reconvene in the new year. I know that it's the same for other clubs across the city, and it's impacting the club's ability to excel across all age groups as they're consistently losing players every year. In recent years, the club's numbers have grown massively, particularly amongst young girls, which is fantastic to see, and the club's beginning to see success and silverware coming back into Craigan. Alongside that, the recent successes at Steelstown, I believe that if, as a council, we must be doing, or we should be doing all that we can to assist the progression of Gaelic games in the city. Within the local area, we have the facility, which is great, at the Bishopsfield. And I believe that if we were to install ball catchers and GAA posts that this would alleviate in the immediate term anyway some of the issues to ensure a greater standard of accessibility for GAA and the council facilities. It also falls in line with the council's current pitch strategy recommendations that were brought forward in 2018. Having access to a 3G floodlit pitch with GAA ball catchers and goalposts would facilitate the continued growth of Gaelic games, and this, alongside the new indoor facility that's scheduled to open at Shandolins later this year, will be a great asset to the local GAA community and the wider community. At present, throughout the winter months, the Bishopsfield had a total of 20 bookings from soccer clubs. In comparison to the Brandywell, that had 750, and Brook Park that had 358. So I believe that if council were to install ball catchers and goalposts at the Bishopsfield, it would see an increased usage of this facility as well, particularly in the winter months, as GAA clubs will be able to book it to use for their winter training. So my ask of this committee and of council is that council will explore the option of adding ball catchers and GAA goalposts at the Bishopsfield in line with the council's pitch strategy of 2018. And I'll put that into the chat box now just as a proposal. Gormegan.
Thank you, Councillor McGinley, for that. Do you have a seconder for that proposal?
Can I second it, Chair? Councillor Duffy.
Who's that?
Sandra Duffy.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. So it's been proposed and seconded. Any other speakers on it? I don't have any speakers on it. I will move on. I will give a few more seconds. It has been proposed by Councillor McGinley and seconded by Councillor Duffy. You know what the proposal is.
Chair, can I come in?
Yes, go ahead.
Chair, thanks. Just to say that we're happy to support the proposal from Councillor McGinley. It is important. I suppose that we're making sure that all sports are catered for, and by adding GAA posts and ball catchers, we're opening Bishopsfield up for people who may be able to book it, particularly going by Councillor McGinley's figures. It's not been used possibly to its full potential. I've seen the benefit of doing that in the Ballyarn DA at Leafair, and we can see the benefit of that. So we have no issue in supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I see no more indicated speakers on it. I just want to note that Alderman Guy has sent in that he is in attendance here. He's online. So it has been proposed and seconded here. So we take that as passed. And we move on to the next item of business is the matters arising from the minutes of the Health and Community meeting on the 9th of December 2021. First of all, for accuracy, any matters of accuracy? We will move in. Any matters arising? Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have two matters arising. The first one is the reference there, BC 279/21, and this is the only place I could find to bring this in, and it's about dog fouling in the district. I've been contacted by quite a few people in recent weeks about an increase in dog fouling. And anecdotally, I've noticed it myself, and maybe other councillors have as well, or maybe people have been in touch with them. So I know that we made a great effort to do an education campaign around this about dog fouling, and we also had the dog wardens out who done a fantastic job. But then I think we scaled it back. My understanding is, a lot of people have bought dogs throughout the pandemic, and you can understand why. And that there's probably also been more dogs, as presents and so on over the Christmas period. And during the winter as well, it is the case that people tend to allow their dogs to go out by themselves. That seems to be one of the explanations I've been hearing from, council work. have a look at in terms of if we can get a report done and see if there's actions we can take to try and address this.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin, for that. I think we'll be happy enough to take that on board and bring back a report on it to the next committee meeting, taking your comments on board. Have you another item, Councillor Harkin?
I do, Chair, and I'm just putting it into the box there so people can see it. Sorry, let me do that again. It's HC 283/21. And that we had a excellent presentation from Western Trust representatives, and I think that gives a real insight into the challenges that they're facing here locally, but also that we know that the health service is facing right across the north. And I've raised the issue of the pay for health service and social care workers, that it's unfortunate that a below inflation pay increase is going to be imposed. It's actually a pay cut on our health heroes, and they're now doing consultative ballots about whether or not they're going to take strike action, which is very unfortunate. I wanted to bring to members' attention a recent Unison survey that was conducted in October, and then its findings were released in December. And it was done, here in the north, England and Wales as well. And again, I found the findings in that report are very, very worrying, coming from health service workers themselves. I just want to mention some of the more alarming findings from the report. 67% of health service workers are worried about the pandemic backlog. 57% of them are finding themselves regularly working now beyond their contracted hours. 57% of those surveyed are considering quitting the health service, and the reasons that they're given for finding themselves in that position is 67% said that the impact on their mental health is one of the reasons why they're thinking of stopping working for the health service. Nearly 60% said that the reason for not working in the health service any longer was because of their pay, meaning that the work that they do doesn't match, isn't valued. And also, very worryingly, 4 in 10 of the health service workers who were surveyed said that they now believe, they're worried and concerned that those of us who use the health service, which is a lot of us, are not getting the quality of service that we deserve. So I think that this is to add to the kind of discussion of the state of the health service and what the challenges are in the Western Trust. I think that this is something we should all be aware of. And it also, I think, puts a further spotlight on the issue of health worker pay, that this is not something that should be getting ignored. So what I want to propose is, off the back of that survey, that we invite in representatives from Unison and some of the other local health unions to give us their point of view on the actual challenges that they're facing right now in the hospitals and across the health service.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin, for that. Would you put that proposal just in the chat box, just?
I will, Chair.
Do we have a seconder for that proposal?
Chair, happy to second that.
That Councillor Carr?
Councillor Carr, yeah.
Yep. Is there any indicated speakers on this item? Because I'm happy to move on, and I know Karen will take on board the proposal here. So I take silence as passed. That's okay then. We move on Councillor Edwards, you have matters arising.
Thanks for letting me in, and HC 282, and I'm aware that there is an update meeting that involves the Derry Valley Leisure Centre, I think next Tuesday, which will go into a lot of detail. But I'm wondering, can officers provide an update on when Derry Valley Leisure Centre can open? A brief update, maybe, Chair. I get a lot of messages about it. You know, this part of this leisure centre, I think it's a sports hall, has been closed from April last year, I believe. So I would like to just get an update from officers on where we are. But I do understand as well we have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday on the Derry Valley Leisure Centre and the Derry City Baths. But I would still appreciate an update on it. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to take that, Karen, or is for Barry or yourself?
No, Chair, members, I'm content to take that. Chair, we have arranged the briefing for members because we do need to give some technical updating on the process in place at this point in time. We're currently at stage 2 of that risk assessment process and implementing additional remediation measures at this particular point in time to further clarify what the final remediation works will entail. I would need the technical support of my colleague Conor Canning to fully brief you on that. So he will be available for the briefing with councillors to give full input on that. But the second phase of remediation work is planned to take place over the next 3 months. In fact, some have commenced in December. Until that completes, we won't have a final position for members. And we'll give you more detail on that, members, as I say, with the full technical input at the arranged briefing.
Thank you, Karen, for that. Are you happy enough with that, Councillor Edwards?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Karen.
That's okay. I just seen Councillor Harkin's proposal dropping up there. We've taken that on board anyway. Councillor Doyle, my apologies, I missed your name.
Not a problem, Chair, and thanks, Roy, for pointing that out. It's HC 284 financial inclusion funding, Chair. I know recently, I'm sorry, I should say I'm a member of the Kernel Resource Centre board. The director of the Resource Centre had been on to me recently because bets had been put in arising from our last meeting for an amount. I think what we were talking around at the last time in total from this committee was over 90,000, but there were confusion as to whether the department were going to allow us to carry that over. I'm told now, having contacted officials last week, that the department have come back and basically said no, that money can't be carried over. Now, that's very disappointing, because for a start, we know coming, you know, at this time of year, trying to ask community organisations who have a range of competing demands to try and spend that amount of money is very difficult, and that's certainly the case for the Resource Centre, because originally we had put on for, I think, an extra member of staff to do advice work on an outreach basis, which would have been great for the local community. So if we could get clarified that that is definitely the case now, that 90 odd thousand minus the very small bids that have been made at the last committee meeting is going to have to be surrendered back to the department. And if that's the case, you know, have we received any response yet to our letter as council to the department outlining the difficulties in local groups not being able to spend this money in a short period of time? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Karen, do you want to comment on that?
Chair, yes, and it's to confirm for members that we have received a response, not in time for distribution for this evening's meeting, and we will table the formal response for the February meeting. I suppose the response, maybe in short, refers to the phase 2 funding of the Financial Inclusion Fund, which is obviously drawn from the Northern Ireland Debt Levy 21-22 allocation. So proposals had to be considered in the context of the parameters of the debt levy spend, and as a result, the process to obtain the relevant internal approvals did give rise to a delay in the subsequent distribution of the funding to councils. The department acknowledged that late in year funding decisions impact on meaningful interventions and will take this into account in developing future plans. As the department receives annual budgets, these can only be spent in financial year, the financial year to which they relate, and consequently the department does not have the freedom to use them to provide funding for future years. So I think in short, Councillor, to answer your query, it must be in-year spend, and therefore that will impact on the offer of funding to council.
Thank you, Karen, for that. Councillor Doyle, do you want to come back on that?
Thanks again, Chair, and thanks, Karen. So Karen, am I right saying then that apart from the small bids that were signed off at the last committee meeting, which I think are only about £6,000 or so, are we effectively now not going to be able to access the rest of that 90-odd thousand? Would that be right in saying? Thank you.
Unless it can be spent in year, Councillor.
Okay, and I think that clarifies that, Councillor Doyle. There's no more items of matters arising, so we move into.
Sorry, Chair, I just had an item that I wanted just to draw members'
Karen. Sorry.
Attention, and apologies for this. It was just 2 items that had been included in reports for the last month. The first was in relation to a feedback from a hate crime workshop. As to draw to your attention that there's a likelihood that consultation will open over the coming weeks, and that may obviously miss report deadlines. So just drawing that to your attention. And the second was a consultation which was included for information on the intermediate rent board proposals, which closes tomorrow. They are very keen to get responses from elected representatives. I know NILGA are preparing a response from residents, from individual councillors, and obviously various housing representative bodies. So it's just a reminder to members, if you want to take that opportunity to respond, there will be a very sort of limited period of extension, not a formal extension, but if presentations or input are received within the next few days or into mid next week, those will be accepted by the department.
Thank you, Karen, for that. Members can take that on board. We move into the matters within the meeting now. We move into item 8, Waterside Shared Village, and I think it's Leanne Thompson's taking this one. Can you hear us, Leanne?
Yeah, sorry, apologies.
No, that's okay. Take your time.
Yeah, so this is just a paper to brief members on the update of the Waterside Shared Village project. The project is funded by Piece 4, which is managed by the SEUPB, and it's just over £7.7 million sterling. The project partners are Derry City Council as lead partner, Irish Street and Hillcrest as the community partners. It's now at an advanced stage of construction. We expect it to complete in June 2022. And we then have a shared programme of activity to deliver with the community partners when the facility is up and operational. And our letter of offer is until December 2022. So we have to make sure that all the funding has been drawn down by then and the retention money is spent too. Basically, what we need to do then is to ensure that the sustainability of the businesses or the building will continue throughout the life of the project and beyond, and to make sure that the project partners, including Irish Street and Hillcrest, continue to deliver the shared programme of community activity, including the cross-community engagement projects. Council will be ultimately responsible for the ongoing management of the project through the peace funding and making sure that the shared programme of activity is implemented correctly and all the targets are met. The facility will be a capital asset owned by Derry City and Strabane District Council and maintained and operated accordingly. All programmes within the community hub will be free of charge, and any revenue generated from the pitches will be used then to offset against the ongoing maintenance costs of the Waterside Shared Village. There can be no income generated from the community hub. This has to be for the sole use of the Waterside communities and within the constraints of good relations and community development. The grass pitches, even though it's expected to complete in June 2022, there will be another year then of waiting for the actual pitches and the sport pitches to be able to be used and booked out. And so we just recommend that the councillors endorse the progress and the update of the Waterside Shared Village.
Thank you, Leanne, for that update. And just checking here if there are any speakers on this. Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Leanne, for the update. I'm not a Waterside councillor, but I live on the Waterside, and I'd just like to welcome progress on the construction of this what will be a fantastic community asset. It's an excellent example of the importance of the EU and the EU's funding streams, and the fact that it aims to deliver community cohesion and reconciliation is something that should be welcomed. So well done to everybody involved, and I'm sure when it opens or when the construction is finished in June, that we can get a walk around it and see how brilliant it is. So thanks very much. Happy to propose on behalf of the SDLP. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Any other speakers? Councillor Ferguson.
Chair, again, I'd like to welcome the report and second it. I think it is, like Councillor Farrell's just said, it's a great achievement. It's one that two communities are coming together, and they're working for the better of their community to make it more inclusive and more accessible to their residents. So it's going to be amazing. Again, I'm not a Waterside councillor, but I would be very close to the Waterside and use a lot of the facilities in the area. So I think it's going to be a really, really good thing for the whole of the Waterside, and the fact that it is a shared village, you know, is just they're leading the way. It's brilliant news. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Just checking here. Alderman McClintock.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. I'm not a member of this committee, but as a Waterside councillor, I thought I just should say that I'm very pleased with the progress to date. And there's obviously some issues to be rolled out or sorted out with the communities locally, but I think it's a great iconic piece of a project between these two communities. So look forward to seeing it rolled out in all its splendour. The community hub and the sports facilities, I think, will be absolutely of great benefit to the two local areas, and it's great to see the two communities very much on board with this project. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman McClintock. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you. I'm not a member of this committee, but I would just like to echo the comments of the previous speakers, and more particularly my colleague, Councillor Farrell. I'm a Waterside councillor, and I should declare that I'm a trustee of Hillcrest Trust. But this is a wonderful project, and I'd like to thank Leanne for giving us the update. It's on track, and hopefully it'll be coming into fruition at the end of June this year. And it'll be a welcome asset for both the Top of Hill community and the Irish Street community, and it'll be a welcome asset for the Waterside in general. But looking forward to seeing it come to fruition, and a lot of people in both those communities have worked hard to get to the point where they are today, and the council as well. So I'd like to commend all those who have brought this project to where it is today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And again, like others, I'm not a member of the committee, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I will declare an interest as a director of Hillcrest Trust and a member of the Waterside Shared Village Steering Group. And Chair, this is a fantastic project, and it's a project that's been a product of many years of collaborative working between community organisations and residents in Top of Hill and in Irish Street. And if I was to say that the communities are ready for it, it's a massive understatement. There's a lot of anticipation around this, and I have no doubt that this project will become a major success, and it will become a brilliant asset for the entire waterside and council area, and for council itself. There's a huge need for sporting facilities in the area. We all know how much sport can help sort of foster relationships and build relationships, and now this project will give people of the waterside another opportunity to do that. So it's a fantastic initiative, and I look forward, as do most of the sporting groups throughout the waterside and beyond. We look forward to the facilities being available and the work to continue through all the community organisations in the area. So I just want to, like others, commend the work that's been done to date, and on behalf of Sinn Féin, we really look forward to this project coming to fruition. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, I think that as it says there in the report, the goal here is to decommission, officially decommission an interface area, and I think that will be a step forward. I mean, you know, so many people are frustrated about the way that our communities are divided, and so many people don't these days define themselves as either nationalist or unionist. As everybody knows, many more people are thinking beyond that. So I think that this is what needs to be happening right across our society. I know that there's, you know, this is happening while at the same time we had a lot of divisiveness coming from Stormont, and that just seems to be constant. So I want to commend all the people on the ground who are often not given the thanks that they deserve, the people who are working, you know, to stop things from boiling over at times when there is issues. That's the type of people who've been driving forward these initiatives. And so I want to commend their efforts, and I look forward to seeing this develop and seeing all them initiatives that are included within it getting fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Just want to concur with all the previous speakers and say that it is great to see the building start on the Shared Village project. Of course, I attended Clondermott High School, so I know how vast that area is inside, and I know how long it's lay derelict. So it's good to see it finally moving on the gear and getting things done. But thanks to the officers, and thanks to Leanne as well, because I know it wasn't a smooth ride with us early on. So thanks for all your assistance in that there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. And I have no other speakers. And just thank Leanne for bringing forward the presentation or the report here. It has been proposed and seconded. Proposed by Councillor Farrell and seconded by Councillor Ferguson. I would take that's unanimous across the board. Thank you, everyone. Item 9, gating order, Academy Road, Northland Way and Glen Road. I think it's Barry's taking this one.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this is to seek your approval for gating orders for the Academy Road, Northland Way and Glen Road. You'll be aware that the Clean Neighbourhoods and Environment Act 2011 strengthens the legislative powers available to the local authorities to help them deal with a range of local environmental quality problems such as graffiti, litter, dog filing and fly posting, and also included in this act is provision for council to make gating orders. Members, most of you will be aware that we've previously approved a number of gating orders under this legislation, and those are listed in section 2.3. In terms of these particular gating orders for the proposed locations, the Department for Infrastructure has advised that it has no objections to the erection of the gates as long as the guidance for district councils on gating orders legislation is adhered to. And in relation to the proposal for the Academy Road, Northland Way, the Outer West Community Safety Team assisted residents to carry the survey and of 18 householders. And you'll see the addresses, members, in section 3.3. In relation to the proposal for Glen Road, the 4 houses impacted were surveyed by Glen Development Initiative, with 3 of the residents supporting the gate installation. One of the properties was vacant during the survey. A number of residents from both areas also indicated their willingness to act as key holders if the gates are installed. So in terms of these members, the proposed gate orders will be publicly advertised in the local press and Belfast Gazette for the required period, and maps showing the proposed locations of the gates will be available for inspection by interested parties at Glen Community Centre. You'll see, members, that it's around £500 per year estimated revenue costs, and those will be required within the Environment Regeneration Directive budgets. If approved, Council's legal section will draw up the gating order in line with the legislation outlined above. So in terms of recommendation, members, that you approve the gating orders as outlined above to enable gates to be installed at the locations detailed in the attached maps. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry, for that. First indicated speaker is Councillor Heaney.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of this committee, so I don't think I can propose this item, but I would like to really welcome it. It's been something that I've been working on for quite a while now, and I know residents will be extremely happy if this goes through today. There's been a whole range of issues that these gates will go a long way to resolve if we can get the orders in place. And I've already approached the PCSP to hopefully get we obviously need the funding for the gates as well in place so we can get them up. But this is a really welcome development, and I just want to commend officers for their work on it, and the Outer West Community Safety team for the consultation that they undertook and their work, and look to see this through to fruition. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Heaney. Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the report. I thought Councillor Heaney was going to propose it, but he's not in the committee. So here, I'm happy to propose this on behalf of the SDLP. I'm not a Foyleside councillor, but I'm originally from Rosemount, so I know the Academy Road area, and I know the Glen Road area very, very well. And I'm aware of the historic issues with antisocial behaviour in both of those areas. But I'm also aware that we've had similar schemes in Ballyrnet which have had a positive impact in local communities, and they have reduced antisocial behaviour. So I am hopeful that this gating order proceeds, goes through the public consultation, there's no objections, etc., and the communities can get these gates in place. They'll have a quieter life and a more peaceful life if this proceeds. So it's an excellent example of partnership working through the PCSP, the Community Safety Wardens, the Glen Development Initiative, and the Outer West Community Safety Team. So let's hope it all goes as planned. So happy to propose on behalf of the SLP. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell, for making the proposal. Alderman Kerrigan, do you want in on this?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I jumped the gun a wee bit. I was looking in on the next item, but Chair, I'm content I can second it there, Chair. Anyway, for the man.
That's okay. Thank you for seconding that. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, I think this is an issue where if these gates going up are going to bring some relief to the local residents, we should absolutely support that, and that's been the case in other places as well. So we'll be happy to support it.
Thank you. I've no more indicated speakers. It has been proposed by Councillor Farrell and seconded by Alderman Kerrigan that we go with the recommendation. Thank you, everyone. And we move into item 10, Good Relations, Council Derrick Young Loyalist Flute Band. I think it's Barry's taking this one.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to resolve the amount of funding to be withheld from the Good Relations Grant Aid funding to Castlederg Young Loyalist Flute Band following the recent council decision. Members, you'll be aware of the previous reports in December to Health and Communities and full council. You'll also be aware that the group were awarded Good Relations funding of £4,000 and £1,000 from the Alternatives to Bonfires Fund. And you'll see the breakdown of the funding awarded that had been detailed in previous reports. And Appendix 1 sets out the profile of expenditure across the 3-day programme. Members at the recent Health and Community Committee on the 8th of December, members recommended the following: that a portion of funding is withheld in light of the outcome of the investigations, particularly the portion of funding that was identified for the Act, and that a warning letter is issued to the group informing them that an action plan, communications plan and specific risk assessment will be required prior to the issue of any future letters of offer to deal with actions to be taken in the event of this type of incident occurring again. In terms of the key issues, is that members to determine based on the resolution at Health and Community the level of proposed funding to be withheld from the grant aid provided to the group. And so members, in terms of recommendation, that members resolve the amount of funding to be withheld from the total grant to be provided to Castledown Young Loyalists. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Barry, for that. And look, Alderman Kerrigan indicated in the last item that he wanted to speak on item 10. So Alderman Kerrigan and then Councillor Duffy.
Thank
Alderman
you,
Kerrigan.
thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. Chair, Chair, I looked through the report here again, and this has rattled on for a while now, Chair, and looked at the funding and the breakdown of funding in this table as well. And having looked at previous funding and the breakdown of it, or what the allocation was for, from my reading of it there, Chair, it's the issue lies in regards to the musical entertainment. And Chair, on that basis there, the good relations money, there were from what I have recalled and what I've wrote down here, there was £1,500 of that was allocated for effectively the musical entertainment. There was a further £1,500 which was allocated towards young people's entertainment. Then there was £500 for PA and amplification system. There was £400 for barriers and various bits and pieces such as that, security and that, and there was £100 for volunteer expenses, and that was the good relations money. So it was 1,500 was the allocation for the musical entertainment. When I've looked at the figures in their table, I've got a figure here of £2,552. So we're not far off 2,600 here of money, which has been the actual cost of the musical entertainment. And when I'm looking at it there, this was not fully funded by council, because the costs exceed the good relations money and the alternatives to bonfire. And I see from the table provided, they're stating here that the actual act on the Friday night was not funded by the funding that has due to be paid by council. And so therefore, Chair, bearing that in mind, and with the, I see still noted, Chair, the legal advice there in 4.2, that there are no grounds within the terms and conditions of the grant aid to withhold the funding at present, given the information provided by the group. I would be minded, Chair, that I have a proposal here, which I'm seeking to put into the chat box, and I would be looking for a seconder. That due to the legal advice and due to the fact that the Musical Act detailed was not paid from the council fund, that we now resolve to pay in full the 4,000 for good relations and the 1,000 for alternatives to bonfire, Chair. So that's what I would be seeking to propose. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have a proposal on the floor. Do you have a seconder for that, Alderman Kerrigan, before we move on?
Chair, I'll second that.
Is that Alderman Guy? Yes?
It is, Chair, yes.
Chair, point of order.
Go ahead.
Chair, thank you. Can I ask for a legal opinion on whether or not we can actually accept the proposal from Alderman Kerrigan, given the fact that we have already resolved through this committee and via full council that we would consider removing funding from this organisation. And if we were to accept the proposal from Alderman Kerrigan, would it need a rescinding motion from the previous one? Thank you.
Philip?
Chair, I believe this is a matter that's been referred through to the committee to determine the amount of funding that should be withheld. I assume in that respect, given that this is a matter which would come back to full council, that it is open to this committee to determine that the amount of funding which should be withheld could be nominal or indeed zero. think the council committed this to this committee.
Thank you, Philip, and I'm happy to go with that and go with the proposal here and with that recommendation. Our next speaker is Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and thank you to Councillor Tierney for raising that point of order. I would be of the same opinion as him. I do think that the legal advice there is splitting hairs in terms of the amount being zero, but that's the legal advice that is before us. Obviously, I will not be, and our party will not be supporting the proposal that is before us, and we have an alternative proposal. There was a vote taken at full council, which stated that there would be an amount of money would be withheld due to the seriousness of the sectarianism that was on display over the course of this event. So absolutely no way could we be supporting a proposal as it stands at that. In terms of what Alderman Kerrigan was outlining there around the musical entertainment, I accept that there was a figure of 1,500 around the musical entertainment. I have to say I found it ironic when I was reading the papers that the act in question was fully paid by the Castleberg Young Loyalists. I had a smirk to myself when I read that. But no, look, I leave my proposal until we deal with this one, but Sinn Féin won't be supporting this proposal as it stands. We had a vote at full council, and in my view, the vote at full council should be honoured.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. I have no problem supporting Alderman Kerrigan's proposal. In light of the proposal made by Councillor Duffy at the last committee meeting, which asked for money to be withheld from the musical part of the act. After reading the profile of expenditure by the CYL flute band, it stated that the band paid for the entertainment out of its own funds. Can I ask Legal Services, can we withhold the amount of funding as it was not obviously from the Good Relations Grant Aid or alternatives to bonfire funding? And it's clearly wrote down there that there was the band's own funds that paid the entertainment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. Philip, do you want to respond to that?
Members, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm being asked to give legal advice in relation to a specific matter in open business. I have provided an opinion in relation to this matter, which is detailed and already available in open business. I don't intend at this meeting to go beyond that point. I think this committee now needs to make a determination that officers can take forward, and that decision needs to be made today.
Thank you, Philip, for that. And look, I understand your advice previously that there has been nothing done wrong here as far as council's funding is concerned. The next speaker is Councillor Edwards.
Chair, thanks for letting me in. It'll be no surprise that the SLP won't be supporting this proposal by Alderman Kerrigan. And on a personal level, Chair, I think we've come a long way since the Good Friday Agreement, and we do need community cohesion in Castleberg. I think the young people of Castleberg deserve a lot better, and I think that lessons need to be learned from this, Chair. And in particular, and I know Councillor Duffy raised it, I did find it very peculiar as well that the act in question was fully paid for by the band. I find it very peculiar. But I'll wait for the proposal, and we may bring our own proposal as well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see Alderman Kerrigan has requested a recorded vote. If it needs to go to a vote, we'll make that known down the line. Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you for bringing me in again. Chair, first of all, I want to point out that I'm not normally one that would push back whenever we ask for a legal opinion. But I would point out that 2.41 states that a portion of funding is withheld in light of the outcome of the investigation, particularly the portion that was funded to the identified for this act. Now, I know what Philip's saying around it could be zero, but I've never got a proportion of anything and actually walked away with nothing. So I would just point that out in terms of the actual wording of the motion or of the proposal that was presented at this committee and at full council as well. I don't see how you can get a proportion of something and walk away with nothing. The other point that Alderman Kerrigan is making is that, and like others, I found it slightly convenient as well that the only part that was being called on the question in terms of funding for this was paid for by the Castleberg Young Loyalists in full themselves. But however, whether that was paid by them or not, without the £4,000 from Good Relations and the £1,000 from the Alternatives to Bonfires Fund, I don't believe that this event would have been able to take place. So it is important that we understand that whilst they may or may not have paid that particular act from their own coffers, without our money, this would not have been able to take place, in my view. Therefore, the sectarian chants that were witnessed by people in Castleberg would not have been heard. So I do think that we have a responsibility to ensure that it doesn't happen again. And I think we have to take appropriate action to ensure that it doesn't happen again. And that, as Councillor Edwards has outlined, for those reasons, the SDLP will not be supporting the proposal that's in front of us at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Councillor McHugh.
Good Chair. Thank you, Morris. Just like my colleague, Councillor Duffy, I find it incredulous, the advice coming back there from our city solicitor, given the vote that was taken at full council, which was to withhold a portion of funding. So, Chair, I mean, I don't see how the proposal that's coming from Alderman Kerrigan can be allowed. But I mean, you're the chair, but to me it would go against standing orders. But however, we'll see how that pans out. Chair, as I said before, this issue has been well debated. It's been before committee at least 2 occasions, and it's been debated at full council. You know, the resolution was passed, and it was quite clear, and was supported at full council that a portion of funding be held back. And Chair, I have the grant aid expenditure details that was issued to Castleberg Young Loyalists in July of last year, and quite clearly states on that musical acts £1,500. So, you know, it's up to Castleberg Young Loyalists how they spend the £4,000 in total that came from council. You know, it's neither here nor there if they paid for a band themselves, but you know, we as a council have a zero tolerance towards sectarianism. I've said it's been debated before, and because I believe, and obviously with the council supporting the motion, the majority of council believe that Castleberg Young Loyalists were in breach of the terms and conditions of Good Relations funding, and I believe they breached the condition 1.12, which I've detailed and documented at previous meetings. So, Chair, you know, I'll certainly not be supporting the proposal from Alderman Kerrigan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McHugh, for that. And while members may say there was a breach, I just want to remind everyone that the legal advice very, very clearly states that there was no breach. Councillor Donnelly.
Good Chair, and thanks for allowing me to speak here. I'm not a member of the committee. Chair, the fact that this is still rumbling on is absolutely unbelievable. You know, I can't see how this can be put across today when, you know, there was an alternative one passed at full council. But Chair, you know, there is, council had supplied money for what was classified as Good Relations. there was quite clearly sectarian chants during that, and you know, it's sort of, I'm bewildered of why nobody has made the proposal that we take all the money off, you know, because it could be seen that, you know, to me it's very, very serious, and was very, very serious sectarian hatred, and I just can't understand why we're still giving any money here. Now, far be it from me sitting in Craigan and Derry to dictate what happens in Castledare. It's my understanding that this is to prevent bonfires. It's also my understanding that there is a bonfire in Castledare, so it hasn't done away with the bonfire. So I think the people that's making this proposal need to be very, very careful. And I think, you know, the original proposal was merely a slap in the wrist and marking the card. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Look, there seems to be a difference of opinion on the proposal, and look, I think we need to be mindful not to be exacerbating the situation. I know the previous speaker called for taking all the money away, and I do appreciate the sentiments from Alderman Kerrigan, that he is saying that the funding, none of the funding was on the act that caused the problem for us. But look, we're not going to get our mind together here today. So I'm going to ask Karen to take a vote on the proposal, the existing proposal that's on the floor here. It has been proposed and seconded.
Recorded vote.
Yep, recorded vote. Yep.
Okay, Chair. Alderman Devaney.
For.
Alderman Guy.
For.
Alderman Kerrigan.
For.
Councillor Sonoya Barr. Councillor Sonoya Barr. Councillor Michaela Boyd.
Against.
Councillor Sean Carr.
Against.
Councillor Duffy.
Against.
Councillor Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Farrell.
Against.
Councillor Ferguson.
For.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Fleming. Councillor Fleming. Don't hear a response. Councillor Harkin.
Against.
Councillor McGinley.
Against, Karen.
And Councillor Tierney.
Against, Karen.
Karen, can I please register my vote there? Sorry.
Yes.
Yep, it has been registered
Against.
here.
Thank you.
Against. Okay. Okay, thanks, members.
Can you just read out the result of the vote to clarify it, Karen? Karen, can you still hear us? Can anyone else hear me just as chair here? Is that okay, or is it only Karen that's out?
I can hear you, Morris.
No, that's okay, thank you. It's only Karen that's out.
Karen, you're on mute.
Karen, I think you're on mute.
Chair, if I could come in, Karen seems to be having problems there.
Yeah.
I took that. I think I've recorded correctly. It's four votes for and 8 against. Is that?
That would be it, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chair,
Sorry,
that accords with my record as well.
sorry, Chair. I lost the screen. I couldn't maneuver anything. Apologies.
Thank you, Karen, for that.
Chair, just for clarification, maybe
Yeah.
I picked it up wrong. I thought it was 9 against. Maybe I'm wrong.
Can we go through the figures again just to make sure?
Four for, 9 against. I didn't record a vote from Councillor Fleming. I didn't hear a declared vote.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, Councillor Fleming would be absent by Alderman Devaney in the chair. Isn't that correct?
Yep, yep. So we have that vote recorded now. And I'm looking, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes, Morris.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. We're moving on now. I see a proposal here from Councillor Duffy, proposed that 1,500 be withheld as this was to cover musical entertainment, which subsequently proved to be sectarian in nature, which contravenes Council's good relations. I'm minded, Councillor Duffy, not to accept this proposal because £1,500, if the act that caused the problem, if it was costing £1,500 for that act.
Chair, can I get legal advice on that? Because it's not up to you. It's up to the chamber in terms of a vote on it. The question in the paper is how much do we want to withhold? And I'm making a proposal of how much we want to withhold. Thank
Yep,
you.
I'm prepared to take legal advice on if I can rule on it, Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, Chair, I mean, the answer is exactly the same as last time. What was sent to this committee was to determine the proportion of funding that should be withdrawn. The figure is a matter for the members, and that figure can be anything from 0 to 100% of the funding. That's for members to determine.
Now, my reading of this is that £1,500 is extreme. Given the information that we have just got, that the money wasn't paid out of any money from the council funding, and it says there very clearly, which subsequently proved to be a sectarian in nature, which contravenes council's good relations policy. Now, I just want to remind members of the legal advice that stated clearly that it didn't contravene council's good relation policy. So I believe that statement, needs to be questioned. That's why I'm questioning it. And look,
Chair, we've had legal advice that the proposal is sound. So I would propose that we take a vote on it.
do you have a seconder on it? Yep, you do here, Councillor McGinley. But I would caution my concern and around the amount here, £1,500. So do. But look, Alderman Kerrigan.
Chairman, you're entitled to vote against if you're unhappy with a figure.
Yep.
That shouldn't stop us from going before the floor, however.
Yep.
With respect, okay. Chairman.
Yep. That's okay. Thank you for that. And I see Councillor McGinley has seconded. Alderman Kerrigan, you want to come on the proposal?
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in.
Chair, am I entitled to speak to the proposal?
Sorry, Councillor Duffy. Yes. Go ahead, yes. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing the proposal and allowing me to speak to it. I don't intend to say a lot to this proposal, as it has been debated at length at a number of meetings where we have discussed the sectarian nature of the event, the chants that were taking place. You indicated that the legal advice didn't say that there was no sectarian chants. The legal advice doesn't say that at all. Just for clarity in terms of the minutes. But I would say that we do need, as a council, to send a clear message that we do have an anti-sectarian policy, and we won't tolerate events like this. We won't fund events like this. There will be consequences if events are held where there is sectarian chanting, where there is abuse and intimidation. So I think that as a council, we have no choice but to send a clear message here today. And we have already debated this at length at a number of meetings. So I am happy with the proposal, and I wish it to be put to the floor. Thank you, Chair.
I would like to look, maybe you picked me up wrong, Councillor Duffy. I didn't say that the legal advice was to be proved to be in a sectarian nation. What I'm saying is that the legal advice said that they didn't contravene Council's good relations policy. Just for clarification on that. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. Chair, we're not going to be able to support the proposal. Chair, as it stands, seeking to withdraw the full 1,500, which was the allocation towards musical entertainment, which took place over 3 days, Chair. The Friday evening, the Saturday evening, and all day on the Monday. So you're penalising the group excessively here, and Chair, wouldn't be content with it at all. But I'd say, if Councillor Duffy has made the proposal, that's whatever way it goes. But Chair, I will again be requesting a recorded vote on this, because without doubt there will be a legal challenge by the band in regard to it, and I just want to make sure that those that vote for the proposal, that it's recorded properly. So I say it's an official recorded vote, Chair. I'll be requesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Councillor Rachel Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to do too much detail because I know this has been well debated over 2 previous meetings. I voted against I voted for the previous motion because I felt the evidence that we were given stated that the entertainment in question, it wasn't the actual act, it was a family member, and it was definitely sectarian, and it was not acceptable. But I didn't feel like that we had enough evidence to pull funding from them. I felt we needed to make sure that we had more reassurances going forward that it doesn't happen again. I do feel that the £1,500 would be excessive because there were other acts that didn't partake on that day. The £1,500 was for all music. I do question, like others, that the act in question was paid directly, but at the same time, as I say, there wasn't enough evidence, and there was legal advice that it hadn't gone against the terms of reference of the good relations funding. So, Chair, unfortunately, because I don't want them to be excessively out of pocket due to the other bands in which that had no part in playing this, I won't be supporting the £1,500 being withheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Edwards.
Chair, thanks for letting me in. I'd like to table an amendment, if that's okay, to the proposal before us, Chair.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Chair, I would like to reduce the amount from £1,500 to £600. I do think that £1,500 is a bit disproportionate. There's other acts there who undertook their, they provided a service in good faith. So I think £1,500 is a little bit unfair. So I would like to amend that to £600, which covers the act in question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, could we have the amendment up on the screen?
Yep, Chair, 2 seconds.
Do you have a seconder for that proposal for the amendment?
I'll second it, Brian Tierney.
So we'll just wait till the amendment's up on the floor.
It's amendment in there, Chair.
Do we have any speakers on the amendment?
Chair.
Is that Alderman Guy? Go ahead,
Thank,
Alderman Guy.
thank you, Chair. Listen, I've spoken this here now over the last two committees. I thought the 1,500 was excessive, just like the 600 is excessive. However, even though I won't be supporting the motion, I have to congratulate Councillor Edwards and Councillor Tierney on showing common sense in this when others were looking to really stick the boot in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. As many people have said, this has been debated a lot now and at Council, and I think we've come to the right decision in the sense that we have to send a strong message that the kind of blatant sectarianism that was described at this event we can't ignore it and we can't tolerate it, and we have to, there has to be some sort of repercussion. So that's why there's a monetary attachment to that, because otherwise it's just all these discussions are meaningless and people can ignore them. So if it is the case that that the 600 would be more directed at those who were more directly responsible for the sectarianism on the evening, we would be happy to support that amendment. There is no need to for other people to end up feeling disgruntled for things that they didn't support, don't endorse, or don't condone. So I think it's very important that we do send a very strong message that this kind of blatant sectarianism has no place in our society, and I think that's what we've endeavoured to do. So I think that's why there has to be some sort of monetary impact involved in this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. There's no more indicated speakers. Sorry, Councillor Duffy. Thank
you, Chair, for allowing me back in. And look, I understand what the SDLP have done with the amendment, but Sinn Féin won't support the amendment. We were content with the original figure that we have outlined. We do feel that we do need to send a strong message, and to send a strong message, I think it has to be the amount that was for the musical entertainment. So we will be voting against the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, can you hear me?
Just now, Chairman, we had lost you there for a second.
No, that's okay. Look, we've had a proposer and seconder for the amendment. We will have to take it to a vote, and it'll be asked once again for a recorded vote, Karen.
Okay, Chairman, members, commence the vote. Alderman Devaney.
Abstain.
Alderman Guy.
Abstain.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Abstain.
Councillor Sonoya Barr. Sorry, Councillor Barr.
Chair, Councillor Barr can't hear. She's just about to type her vote under the chat box. She's having difficulty
hearing. It's in the chat box for.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Against, Karen.
Councillor Stephen Edwards.
For Karen.
Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
For Karen.
Councillor Fleming, not present. Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor McGinley.
Against, Karen.
And Councillor Tierney.
For.
Karen, Councillor Kerr here, you must my name.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Carr. Can I have your vote then, please?
For.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Karen, you didn't get my vote either.
Sorry,
Against. And I don't think you got Councillor Boyle's either. Yeah, you got mine, Karen.
Yeah. So members, 7 for, 3 against, and 3 abstentions.
Thank you, Karen, for that. That becomes a substantive proposal now. When Councillor Ferguson.
Chair, just before it goes this far, I wanted to say that even though I did support the amendment because I didn't want the £1,500 going through, I won't be supporting the motion going forward just because, as I said before, our legal advice had stated that there wasn't evidence to show that we could withhold the funding, and as I said before, there was a family member and not necessarily the performer themselves. So like previous votes on this one, I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Chair. No, Chair, just again, requesting the recorded vote. And Chair, I know it has dragged on a bit, and I know comments were mentioned about the funding. This event wouldn't have took place without the council support, but I mean, the event's taken place over 6 months ago now, the day since the tail end of that event, and the band is all paid for. So as I say, Chair, I'll just again request an official recorded vote, Chair, because I still feel that there will be a challenge taken against us. Thank you.
I see Councillor Duffy it will be recorded anyway, but look, that's Councillor McHugh.
Thanks, Chair, for allowing me in. Chair, just a point of clarification as to what Councillor Ferguson referred to there. The legal advice did not state that there was no evidence. The legal advice was that the Castledare Young Loyalists, and their opinion, had met the terms and conditions of good relations funding. That's what the legal advice was. And Chair, the committee voted against that. And I argued that the Castledare Young Loyalists hadn't met the terms and conditions. So just to make that point, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Comments noted. We have a number of people changing votes this time. So Karen, I would ask you to record the vote again, go through the vote again on the proposal now as it sits.
Okay, Chair, so starting the vote, Alderman Devaney.
Against.
Alderman Guy.
Against.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Against, Karen.
Councillor Sonoya Barr.
For Karen.
Councillor Boyle.
For Karen.
Councillor Carr.
For Karen.
Councillor Duffy.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
For Karen.
Councillor Farrell.
For.
Councillor Ferguson.
Against.
Councillor Fleming, not present. Councillor Harkin.
For.
Councillor McGinley.
For Karen.
And Councillor Tierney.
For Karen.
Okay. So Chair, 9 for and 4 against.
Thank you, Karen, for that. And that proposal is carried. And we move on. Karen, is there any update on Sharon McCullough?
Yes, Chair, Sharon is waiting in the lobby. She's available when committee agree to receive her input.
Yep. Would members be minded now to take Sharon McCullough, the President, questions from Sharon now?
Be happy enough, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney, for that. So can we invite Sharon in? Just let us know when she's online.
Chair, Sharon has just joined us. Yeah.
Thank you. Karen, have you anything to say before we move into the presentation or the update?
Chair, the input this evening is at the request of members arising from discussion at full council that we invite the department to receive questions in respect of Rosemount.
Yep.
So my understanding is that Sharon is here on behalf of the department to answer questions and provide clarity to members as needed.
Chair, are you okay if I start?
Yes, and I just want to say welcome you, Sharon, to our meeting here today.
No problem, Morris. Thanks very much. My apologies, everybody. I had anticipated having a presentation for you, but I've just been too busy to get it sorted. So I'll just go ahead and give a verbal update if you don't mind, and then I can take the questions at the end. As Karen's made the introduction, you know, the department was requested to send a rep to talk about ongoing issues here on Rosemount Resource Centre. I'd like to advise that I'll provide an update on support provided by the Department for Communities to Rosemount. This may address a number of issues you may be aware of. You'll appreciate that I'm not in a position to discuss any issues that are responsibility of the funded organisation, particularly any employment-related issues. I would therefore request that any queries you have in respect of employee and employer issues are referred to the organisation as appropriate. I would advise that DSC fund the registered charity Rosemount and District Welfare Rights Group, and it's commonly known as Rosemount Resource Centre, and I will refer to the organisation as Rosemount for ease of reference. There's been a number of issues that have been raised, you know, through a number of sources. You'll be aware of correspondence received, media, social posts, and the likes. DFC takes all of these issues and concerns raised seriously and follows through in line with guidance. As intervention is ongoing, I'm unable to provide detailed information at this time. Sorry, excuse me. Broadly, I would advise that DFC Governance Unit were contacted. We had provided an update on the issues that were raised, and they are content that support has been provided to develop the management committee's capacity. They're content that employment issues are not the responsibility of DFC and have recommended that the Charities Commissioner engage to identify any further support available to the group. From June and July of last year, DFC have engaged with the Charities Commission, who are providing ongoing support and advice, particularly around the Management Committee. Legal services have also been engaged, and this was on the request of the Charities Commission. They're advising the charity on the legal status and on the way forward. I would advise that support from the department in this current year is 182,000, and they're covering 3 projects. DFC staff have provided significant intervention to ensure progress is made and the needs of the community are met. DFC are the main funder for the organisation and have led on liaison with other funders, and we want to ensure that funding is not lost for the area. The new committee members have been appointed and have agreed immediate priority actions, and will keep the position under review. At this point, we're waiting on the AGM to be confirmed, and the members will be ratified at that stage. At this point, that is as much information as what I can give as a broad overview. Do I now respond to the questions, or do members ask their questions separately?
I think, Sharon, respond to the questions that you have now.
Okay, no problem. So there was a question raised about the loan of 50,000. Has everybody been shared with a copy of the questions, or?
Chair, can I come in? Because just I know that, sorry, hi Sharon, it's Sandra Duffy here. I supplied 2 questions to yourself, and I suppose because you were going on there to refer to the first question, and it was a question that I had submitted. I don't know, Karen, I suppose looking for guidance from yourself. Would it be useful for us to ask the questions that we submitted so that they could be read into the record?
Chair, I think it would be our preference that you did raise the questions. They were provided to the department so they could prepare a response for this evening.
No, I'm happy enough with that. I'm happy enough with that. So, the first indicated speaker on this was Councillor Doyle. Had you any questions in? And I'm only just dealing with the questions at the moment that has been asked.
I didn't get a chance to submit questions, Chair, but I do have questions.
Yep, I will bring you in later when I will bring you in later for the ask questions. I just want to deal with those who have sent in questions at the moment to get that bit tidied up. So I'll bring you back in later, Emmett. So Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate that. And Sharon, thank you for attending the committee. We do appreciate your time here today. I suppose as you have outlined, we're all really aware of the circumstances that have led to this. But the whistleblowing letter that had been submitted to yourselves as a council, elected members, and of course yourselves as DFC back in May. And that letter, it raised very concerning issues around the management and running of the Rosemount Resource Centre. And I suppose as a party, since then we have met consistently with the workers that have been affected and listened to the stories and the issues that they have raised and some of the treatment of the woman that had led to this point. I suppose then as a council, we also met with the woman and they had outlined then the ongoing saga and how that has now affected them. Some of them have left their jobs. It has affected their health, their mental health, their families. So all those things taken into consideration, I suppose, as a party and as a council, we're keen to keep supporting the women through this really difficult time. And I suppose try and get some clarity around some of the issues that they have raised. And I know, Sharon, we have also met with you privately in relation to some of this stuff, because we are looking to try and get the best outcome for everybody who has been involved in this. I will now, if that's okay. I know I submitted 3 questions, Sharon, but I then withdrew one as I don't believe that it is an issue for this committee here. So we can follow up with that privately. So the 2 questions that I have submitted, I read them into the record of the committee and you can respond. The first question was, it's our understanding that a loan of £50,000 was previously secured by the trustees of Rosemount District Welfare Rights Group using the former Rosemount Resource Centre building as security. This loan is still outstanding, but the department was not made aware of this when the business case was approved and the funding provided for the Rosemount Resource Centre building. What actions have the department officials since taken to ensure this action will have no impact on the financial and administrative status of the new building? And then the second question is, it is also our understanding that the business case that was processed by DFC to facilitate the construction of the new building wrongly stated that the staff from Treehouse Creche and Bluegrass After School were employees of the Rosemount District Welfare Rights Group. It consequently created the impression that the new building would be directly delivering after school and creche services. This was based on information provided to the department by Rosemount. The department is now aware that these staff were never employees of Rosemount District Welfare Rights Group. So what impact does that have on the contract that Rosemount has with the department? So those are my 2 initial questions that I have submitted, Sharon. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead, Sharon, just respond to those two questions.
Right. Sandra, in response to your first question, fully take on board the comment that's made. I would advise that the loan was secured after the business case was approved, and therefore the department would not have been made aware of the loan at the time of the business case approval. You can appreciate it's been a long process in actually getting the funding and developing that project. So we had our business case approved, and then there was delays with, the getting the funding and stuff in place. So the loan was taken after the fact, and of course, whenever we were made aware, we would have taken every action to address it where possible. I would state that, while the management of any loans is the responsibility of any organisation, departmental officials have been working with the organisation to review the financial position to ensure there's no impact on the new resource centre building. We, like yourselves, want to make sure there's service delivery there and are taking every effort to minimise any risk at all. The EFC, I can confirm we've placed a statutory charge on the building, and again, that's the security for the funding that has been placed and provided to the organisation. And just in the final point, I've had to take legal advice on what I can state and going forward, and I would advise that legal advice is ongoing. I actually was in meetings today with representatives of 3 different parties. So again, my final response to that question is that the legal advice is ongoing. In response to your second question, like yourself, it was my understanding that the organisations were separate entities. Actually, when we were developing the project, Bluegrass was in a separate location, whereas Treehouse was in the accommodation of the old Rosemount building. So it was always the department's understanding that these were separate entities. So I don't have any issues there. With regard to the contract with the department, the building is there as a service, as a community centre, and it's the services that are being provided to the centre that we're, to the community that we're concerned about, to make sure that that still is sustained going forward.
Thank you, Sharon, for that. Councillor Duffy, do you want to come back on any of those answers?
No, I was just taking notes there. I'll reserve any further comment to listen to the further questions. Thank you. I do understand that there is legal constraints to some of the answers that you can give, Sharon.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Sharon, for your attendance at this meeting and your work around this particular issue to try and resolve it, because I know you've been working on it for quite a long time, and I know, and I can only imagine that it's been difficult. I would, I suppose, like to point out from the very outset that our position is that we want to see this dispute, if you want to call it that, resolved in a timely manner, and allowing Rosemount Resource Centre and everyone who uses it and everyone who lives within that community to benefit from the work that the DFC staff are employed to provide up there. And I think we need to keep that to the forefront of our mind. I also appreciate the sensitivities that are around this particular agenda topic. And before you did come online, I was very keen to see if we could move this meeting and move this side of the meeting and the confidential, which may or may not have allowed you to answer the questions that little bit more detail. But I do understand the complexities and the position that you find yourself in. We have issued a number of questions, and I would again point out that during this meeting, I have been in contact with the manager at Rosemount Resource Centre. And Sharon, this isn't really one for yourself. It's more for ourselves. And they have expressed concern to me today that they feel very left out of this process by council and by some elected representatives. They feel that they have been isolated and are very much working alone throughout this process. Sharon mentioned in her opening remarks about the media, the letter, the social media posts, and all of that. And I think we need to take that into consideration as well. And Chair, with your permission, once I ask the questions, I will be making a proposal that we do arrange a similar meeting with the management at Rosemount Resource Centre between elected members and council officials to afford
Chair.
Yes.
Go ahead. What's the point of order, Councillor Doyle?
Chair, can I just clarify? My understanding is that whenever we actually met the ladies who are members of staff in the creches, that we also wrote out to the management and the committee of the centre, and either we didn't receive a reply or they didn't wish to meet with us at that point. So, if we could get that clarified, because I don't believe that it's fair to put on the record that that this, that they weren't invited, or there was no engagement from council in that regard.
Councillor Tierney, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, I do, and I want to move on, Sharon, and I apologise. I want to move on to ask my questions, which I believe are the important part, but I can clarify it, and as I said, I have been speaking to them. They were invited to a meeting. They asked for an agenda, and no response was given to them, is my understanding. But Chair, I want to move on to ask the questions, because I think that's the important part. But I will, and Councillor Doyle is more than entitled to vote against my proposal if he wishes, but I don't see the harm in affording the management of Rosemount Resource Centre the same opportunity that we have afforded the ladies who sent on the letter, and making sure that we have a full and a clear view of what's going on. This isn't about being judge and jury. This is about making sure that we can move the Rosemount Resource Centre and all of the staff who use, and all of the user groups, away from this dispute, and making sure that they're getting the service delivery that community so rightly deserves. But I will move on, Chair, to the questions. And Sharon, you have touched on some of them, so I appreciate that. If it sounds a bit repetitive, I hope you understand that. The first question is, what support has the department given to Rosemount Resource Centre to address the concerns that have been raised? We understand that a new committee has been set up. What support has the department given to that new committee, and how long will that support be in place? Sharon, you'll appreciate that some people on this committee may be coming into a role like this for the first time, and may need further support, and because of the complexities of the issues that are going on up there, may need that further support. So we would just like to see how long that will be in place. Is the department confident of the current governance procedures in place, including management committee skills and expertise in running this organisation? Are the department confident that all funded programmes have been delivered within the agreed time frame when monies were applied for, and that concerns raised did not affect the work being carried out? Have the department carried out a quality audit of all DFC funded programmes? And what impact, and I think this is probably one that we may not be able to quantify, but one that is, in our opinion, very, very important. What impact has this dispute had on service delivery and activity within the centre and within the wider community? Because at the end, that's the, making sure that this community is being looked after has to be the overriding priority for all of us. Sharon, I do appreciate the difficult situation and the difficult position that you find yourself in, and if you can help answer those questions, that would be, I think, would be extremely useful. Thank you, Chair. I don't know if you want me to make that proposal now, or you want me to wait until others have asked Sharon their questions, or what way you want to do it.
Councillor Tierney, I would prefer that we listen to, get the questions answered first, and I will definitely bring you back in when that is finished. What's your proposal?
No bother, Chair. Thank you.
Sharon?
Thanks, Chair. Brian, thanks very much. You are very well aware of the intervention that we have provided to date. Look, I can't go on the song and dance, but I can qualify that we have put extensive intervention and the supporting, all parties up at Rosemount. And on the back of Sandra's comments about the ladies, we have been listening ears. We have been supporting and helping this organisation for many years, and more, importantly, in the most recent year. It's just a desperate situation, but look, we're doing our best to help where we can. So I'll just take your questions one by one, if you don't mind. The first question about what support the department's given to address the concerns. Legal advice is ongoing for all parties concerns to address the governance concerns. You can imagine there is a lot of issues, so we are trying to address these on a pragmatic kind of process. So we've got the new committee on board, and they're very focused, and we just have to be there to provide that support to make sure that that's followed on through as best we can. In response to your second question, the department has, again, it has taken a long time to get new committee members committed to this, because you can imagine, what the social media requires, or all the coverage. It has been a hard sell to try and get people brought on board. You made reference there to new members. They're not new, they're experienced people from other bona fide community groups that have absolutely the right experience to be able to help this going forward. The department and the new committee, they've sought separate legal advice in respect of governance issues to ensure Rosemount sustainability going forward. And I just want to ensure that, the committee members have the necessary skill set for that going forward, and we'll continue to work with them to ensure that we get service delivery for the residents of the area. Your question 3, again, just reiterating that the new managing committee have the requisite skill set to progress with the governance review, and they will ensure sustainability going forward. It might be small steps, and there might be quicker steps, quick ones or whatever, but we have to support this committee going forward. And I would respectfully ask all of the local elected members here, to be helpful in that respect, to make sure that we can do this right and help where we can. Your question 4, are the department confident? The department continues to monitor programs, as is our normal procedure. And again, this is managed in the same way that we do with all groups. We have our normal progress reporting. You can appreciate, again, through COVID, it had added difficulties. So we just need to kind of keep on program and monitor as best that we can. Question 5. I wasn't sure if that was just you were referring to Rosemount or all DFC funded programs. You'll be mindful that this was addressed centrally by the department, and a response was provided previously to council. We do have a strict internal audit process, and all projects are subject to that. And that's as much as what I can say here. We do take things seriously, as I said at the outset of the opening. Your last question then, the department continues again to monitor the position in respect of service delivery. Brian, I know that sounds like just wishy-washy answers. It's not. We are dedicated. We are working very, very hard and diligently. There's more hours put in than what I want to be putting in here, but sometimes this is what it's called for, and we will make sure that we work with everybody to get a sensible resolution.
Thank you, Sharon, for that. Councillor Tierney, do you want to come back in any of the answers?
I'm happy enough, Chair, at the minute, and just agree with Sharon around her last comments here around a sensible resolution for everyone who uses Rosemount Resource Centre. I think that has to be, as I said already, our overriding priority at the minute. And Chair, if you can allow me to come back on with that proposal at the end, I would appreciate it. Thanks, Sharon.
Councillor Heaney has indicated, next Councillor Heaney, is this some questions that have been submitted or ones you just want to ask on the evening?
No, Chair, it's questions I'm asking on the evening, so
I have one other one before you, so I'll bring you back in. Councillor Harkin, is this some questions that have been submitted or questions on the evening?
Questions on the evening, Chair.
That's okay, so I'll start going down that list. The first indicated speaker on question on the evening is Councillor Doyle.
Much appreciated, Chair, and Sharon, very welcome, and thanks for coming to the meeting tonight. If officials from all departments were as well, we'd be delighted. And listen, I understand from your own perspective as well that you're right in saying a lot of time has been spent on this. I know that from speaking to the ladies who work in the creche, that you've been there to support them. And we all want to get these issues sorted out, but what it comes down to is that from our perspective, we've obviously been contacted by constituents of ours collectively when a letter of concern was sent to us. And I did go At one stage, I think we actually missed each other by an hour one day. I did go to the centre one day to speak to the manager and to the committee, and there was a conversation had at a later time that day. But I am very concerned about things that maybe aren't things that the department can sort out, to be honest. I mean, I know that you've been aware of the issues that have been raised by the staff for a long enough time. You know, this has gone back to, I think, when we originally got the letter, we're talking months now, and I think you were probably aware of them just before that. I suppose one of my primary questions is, would it not have been in the best interests of the community for the department to intervene at an earlier stage with staff with whom the department had a relationship with, when they highlighted what they felt was the behaviour of the committee? And I say that in relation to the allegations made, and I say allegations very clearly because that is what they are. Secondly, in terms of the new committee, I know that there are some well-known names on it, people from across the community sector who have stepped in to help, and fair play to them for doing so. But I do think that that's reflective of the bad state that RRC find itself in. Obviously, in terms of the local community, it's, I think, everybody's position that these types of facilities should be run by the local community for the local community. Were applications from residents of Rosemount not considered for the new committee? And I know you mentioned about an AGM that's coming up, or that's planned. Will members of the community have an opportunity to put themselves forward for the committee in that meeting? There are other questions that I do have around some allegations that have been made, but I'm advised that it's probably best not to do that here, but I'll raise it with you privately, Sharon, and those are in relation to whenever I originally had met the ladies from the creche collectively some months ago. I have to say that they were very deeply upset as to what had gone on and how they felt they had been treated at the centre. I've subsequently, just before Christmas, was given 3 full ring binders full of emails and evidence with regards to some of the issues that have been raised. One of those, and you mentioned about audit, and I know that, you know, the department only has a limited role in terms of overall governance for these types of organisations, but, you know, there were documents that were given to me that indicated that funding from one source or another had been moved from one account, the account that the funding was meant to go to, out of that and into an RRC account. And again, that's something that's been given to me. I'm not in the position to say whether that's exactly the case or not. But those are the types of serious issues that have been raised with us. We have given the management committee and I believe the manager that opportunity to come and speak to us. I wasn't aware that they weren't given an agenda. I'll be following up with officers on that. But it is important that we get to a point where this is back to a community centre that is run by for the community, that we're all content that we can leave the community centre in a way that is run with governance at its heart, with good relations at its heart, because ultimately those are the type of services that we want to see there at the moment. Am I right in saying at the present time as well, sorry Sean, just to throw this in at the end, that could you outline for us what you're aware of in terms of the services that are being provided in the centre and by whom at the moment? Sean, again, thanks very much. Really appreciate you coming.
No problem, Emmett. We have missed each other, and you know I've communicated with you, and I'm happy to have a meeting if there's other issues that you want to take offline. That's not a problem. You've raised a number of issues there to be in the best interest of the women and their concerns. Absolutely, DFC have intervened at the very earliest stages. I had meetings with the staff as far back as probably November 20. So that's well in advance of whenever the concerns were raised. The comment you're making there about moving funds about has been raised with ourselves. And like you haven't received through ring binders, we were offered that evidence. I asked for it to be provided and it wasn't shared. So I'll happily go through stuff with you if that's okay. Now, there's a number of issues there that you've raised, Emmett, that we have been working on. The AGM, our aim is basically to have the community for, the community centre for the community. Absolutely, that's our end aim here. But we're having to follow the legal advice, and we're also following advice from Charities Commission. The problem is that, looking as an outsider, and right, because I'm not from the area, and you kind of see everything that's happening. There's offers of people coming on board from this person, that person, and whatever. And that has been the root cause of some of the issues. So the main concern for me was, let's have an independent, short-term board here. And it was advised by the Charities Commission, because they were actually going to try and get people from outside of the town, to try and get this, come in and do like nearly an advisory role, get it on the place. And we agreed that we would try and source locally. And that's what we have done. Now, we have not, there's two members that are still on the committee that are local residents, which is great. And we want to be able to build up their capacity and skills. And then eventually, there will be more local opportunities for local residents to be engaged. But at this point in time, I think the important fact is to get the house in order. And we can do that in as quick a time as possible. Then that will help then engage the local community in, taking on active roles within the committee going forward. But at this point, Emmett, we have to take the advice from the legals and, the Charities Commission to make sure that we do this and get it done right and help everybody, if that makes sense.
You want to come back, Councillor Doyle?
Just to say thanks, Sharon, again, really appreciate it. And thanks for all the time and effort that you've put on. I know it's appreciated around the houses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Councillor Heaney?
Thank you, Chair. As another member of this committee. Again, thanks, Sharon, for the presentation and coming into the meeting. I suppose like our position and concern around the issues that were raised with all councillors has been sort of aired by Councillor Duffy at the time, and been sort of, you've answered a number of issues around that and some of the sensitivities around that, so I'm not going to dwell over on that. But like, I do want to again echo what others have said and what you've said yourself, that the key objective here is delivery for the people of Rosemount, and for the asset, which is this facility, this new fantastic facility in the Rosemount area, properly doing and having the services that the people of that community that deserves and who I represent. So that's my key focus in this, and as you said yourself, that's what you're focused on too. I suppose questions that I have are around how that has moved on. So it's relation, and one of them you've sort of touched on, but I wouldn't mind repeating it. But the first one is just about the jobs that are currently vacant. I think that the strategy manager job, and obviously, and I need to declare an interest at this point. I'm a member of the Outer West board, and there is a wider issue than just Rosemount in this, obviously, just because the Rosemount is a component of the Outer West area, and we want to see the entire Outer West area being delivered for as best it can be. So just when will those posts be advertised and hopefully filled? And the second one is just to return the question Councillor Doyle asked there in relation to the new management committee, and is that open, and how will new members be brought onto that, either if at this AGM or as timely a point as possible, to try and ensure that it fulfills its key role. And I accept what you've said, that this is an interim measure, so I want to know when we can move beyond that point. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Heaney. Sharon?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Connor. With regard to the jobs, again, I'll revert back to, we're not the employer. The new management committee have been very pragmatic. They actually had the jobs advertised for the technical assistance project out before Christmas. It's my understanding the closing date's this week. I may be corrected. So that should be there, but shared out through the partnerships as far as I am aware. They should be filled and they're go through the recruitment process as a management committee will do. And that's, I'm sorry that I can't give any more details on that because I'm staying clear of employment issues. For the second one, for the new management committee, as I said earlier, we have to take the advice from the Legals and the Charities Commission. And, you know, it will be that small committee just at this point in time. I've already explained this to you previously. We just have to get the house in order, and we will then take the lead, and whenever it's in a position to recruit more people from the local area, then there will be that opportunity. But what shape or form that takes is all being developed, Conor, at this point in time.
Thank you, Sharon. Happy enough, Councillor Heaney?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thanks, Sharon, for being able to come along today and do the presentation. And as I'm sure you'll agree, this has been, you know, a not very easy situation over the last year in terms of trying to resolve this. And you know, I think that the biggest impact is on the ability of the Rosemount Resource Centre to be able to deliver for people in Rosemount, but across Foyleside, and obviously the Rosemount Resource Centre sits on the edge of the Moor Ward at the bottom of Craigan. So this is a you know, it potentially can relate and help and work with a lot of people. And it's just very disappointing that once the new centre opened, that it didn't flourish and take off, and that instead we've went in the opposite direction and been dealing with a host of very, very serious issues and a fallout. So you know, I think from my perspective, I want to see the resource centre up and running, a hub of activity, delivering services for people, you know, across the district, and then the Foyleside DA as soon as possible, and to really reach its potential, and to really be a place as well that is where there is, you know, that community spirit in terms of local people shaping what's happening, and shaping the services and volunteering with a lot of confidence. And we're just not there right now, and I don't think that we are close to being there. And that's, you know, maybe despite your efforts. And I understand that your role is to try and make sure that the resource centre stays open, stays working, and has some services available. So that's crucial. So I think, look, the what you said there about the committee is very useful, right? Because it's not going to work to just have a couple of residents on the committee. And other people parachuted in from elsewhere. It could work, but it won't become the hub that we need it to become. So that is going to be, and it's not clear. I mean, I think you've provided some clarification as to why people would be brought in from what you would say outside, wouldn't be elected in, or I don't know how that works. But that's not going to work in a long-term way to kind of build up confidence, and to get people on side. You know, talking to people in Rosemount and around, I think people don't fully understand what went on, and there's different interpretations and different sides, and sometimes people are saying the same thing, two things at the same time, and this is why it's very unfortunate. But that just doesn't work well in terms of people's confidence about using the centre and hoping that the services are available. The second thing that's of crucial importance, I think, for us as a council, certainly for me as a councillor, is the issue of workers' rights. And I don't think that the staff collectively, whether they were employed directly by the Rosemount Resource Centre or working for either of their creches, were treated properly. And I think that that's been very unfortunate. I think that the union, Unison Community Organisation, the Unison Community Branch, did its best to represent people, but that was it able to deliver on or win or get proper representation in terms of what they got out of it for people? I don't think so. I mean, and that's reflected in the fact that quite a few people have resigned, unfortunately, who were long-term employees, long-term workers, and that takes out all that experience. People obviously stepped away because of stress. People stepped away because they were unable to kind of continue to work there, and that's what we heard when we met. You know, the workers who sent in the statement initially. And obviously the impact of them is, you know, people were talking about the mental health impact. Some people are still without work. And I know that you can't, you're limited in terms of what you can say about employment, but the key, one of the key things is that the DFC meet its accountability and duty of care in terms of you know, sick pay, making sure people were getting their pay, people got what they were owed in terms of when they stepped away from employment. Was all that done properly? Because that's crucial. A second thing is, I know that the Unison Community Branch no longer has a recognition agreement there. That was broken off by the resource management, and that's disappointing because I think that the union did its job. It might be uncomfortable to be representing people around thorny issues, but that's what a union's for, and that applies really to every community organisation. And there's very little unions in the community groups, unfortunately, and that this was one of the places where there was a recognition agreement and attempted to represent people properly. So I mean, I think that the DFC should be promoting trade unionism. I think that and this council certainly should be doing it as well, but that there has to be an organisation or organisations that are going to represent people and make sure that their rights are protected. And obviously the council has a duty of care to the workers. The DFC has a duty of care to the workers. But I think that you know, trade unions have been a vital way for that to be upheld as well. So I suppose, yeah, the committee and its future, the workers and the DFC's responsibilities to them are pivotal issues. If you could give us some feedback on that. Thank you, Sharon.
No problem, Sean. The first point you made about services, I fully agree. You know, with limited staff there at the minute, then, you know, as soon as they're established, then hopefully more services will be provided. You know, it takes the population in that area. They start, you know, engaging with the centre to make sure services are known. There is services there, and, you know, our aim is to make sure that it's fully maximised, like yourself and Connor have indicated. So the sooner that happens, the better in my eyes, because there is a great centre there, and we need to make sure that it's made use of. Regarding staffing, again, Sean, you'll forgive me because I can't really speak about it, but I am willing to take forward your concerns and let the new management committee know. Maybe it'll be a point of having a meeting agreed with yourselves, but you know, you can appreciate with new committee members coming on board, they're trying to get to grips with everything that's there, trying to agree an action plan and get the steps taken. From the department's perspective, we provide funding. We will be expecting the funded organisation to make sure that they pay the relevant sick pay and whatever that is due, because that's their employer liability. With regard to duty of care, Sean, that's an employer's responsibility, and you know, it would be remiss of me to sit here and say, well, the department will take a duty of care. We provide funding to facilitate the delivery of services and develop in the community. And that is where our strength is, and that's where we have to support. We have to expect our funded organisations to be responsible to deliver on that basis. And again, we work closely with the groups and help. You know, you can appreciate how much, you know, we have done here for Rosemount, and you know, there's, you know, obviously people that are aggrieved with whatever has happened. I can't speak for the management committee. That's their role, and let's hope that we move forward and get things and relations built and all of the rest going through. So you're the Unison branch, happy to let the new management committee know of your concerns, and they can get in contact, maybe re-establish those links if that's appropriate.
Thank you, Sharon. Councillor Carr is the next indicated speaker.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can I welcome Sharon here this afternoon as well? And thank her for her input. I do know that she has done a lot of work over the period of time in Rosemount. But my question would be more directed to Karen McFarlane. Quite a number of months ago, Karen, there was a motion put forward to Council. It has been mentioned by a couple of members earlier that the meetings take place with both sides in Rosemount of the unrest. And could you outline, Karen, what has Council done since then as regards communication with them? Thanks.
Chairman, I'm happy to update on the communication that I'm aware of. And firstly, yes, correspondence was received, and in cognizance of the motion, the Chief Executive convened a meeting with the various representatives who had signed the letter of concern. There was a letter sent to the Management Committee, as members have referred to. And my understanding is that over recent days there has been some additional communication, and the Chief Executive has in fact set a date for a meeting, which he would be of the view of would be attended by elected members, but also by officers, including himself and the other officers who have been involved in the process to date. So my understanding is that action is in hand.
Thank you, Karen. Happy enough with that, Sean?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Karen.
Councillor Heaney, do you want them briefly to pick up on a previous question? Go ahead before I bring Councillor Tierney back in for the proposal.
Yes, just briefly, Chair, and thank you again for bringing me back. And there was a question asked earlier in terms of delivery of projects currently in the community in light of where we're currently at. And I don't think Sharon had covered that. I don't know if she can, but if she could maybe come back on that, that would be appreciated.
Connor, I had expressed there's reduced staff there, so the ability to deliver the full wealth of services it should be, it just hasn't been possible. The centre manager there at the minute is delivering some services. I know that our generation project is up and running. I've met the ladies there and they were absolutely delighted to be back in the centre and getting the support of the community. And actually, I suppose it was more an isolation thing for that group in particular, but they were delighted. I know there's different interventions going, trying to liaise with the local St. Joseph's Boys School, getting intervention there. So look, Rome isn't built in a day, and it's going to take a bit of time to develop a programme of activity. And with limited resources, it's going to be more compounded. But we are keen to make sure that there is services and it's developed as quickly as possibly can.
Enough for that, Councillor Heaney?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle, briefly.
Briefly, Chair, thanks. It's just actually come on the back of what Councillor Carr had said there, because he's 100% right. It was actually raised at AAR way back in September. But Councillor Tierney mentioned something earlier on there about that the management committee or the manager had received a request to meet with councillors and officers and weren't given an agenda. Now, I don't know whether that was managed between AAR officers or Karen, maybe any of your officers. Can we clarify between the two of you? Did we receive information from either the manager or the management team to say we'll meet you, but we need an agenda? And was that responded to? Because I think that's a fair point to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Karen, do you want to respond to that?
So, Chair, I don't have that information to hand, and to confirm, I didn't receive anything directly. I'm not sure if there's any other officer on the call who can give further clarity, but I'm very happy to take that point away and to check the status of that correspondence. And
come back to Councillor Doyle again. That'll be lovely. No, we move. I want to move on now. Councillor Tierney, I want to bring you back in because you have a proposal.
Yeah, Chair, thank you, and thanks again to Sharon for her attendance and her attention to detail with all of the questions. Chair, I know that this topic has garnered lots of interest across the community and the media and on social media, and I just want to point out that for us, our position is trying to make sure that we can do all we can and use whatever influence we have to try and resolve the ongoing issues and get Rosemount Resource Centre and everyone who uses it thriving again, and we will do whatever we can to do that. Chair, I had a proposal which I just popped under the chat box. I think Karen McFarland has covered it in relation to the actions that the Chief Executive has taken over recent days. But I think we have to bear in mind that we're not here to be judge, jury, and executioner. It's about trying to do whatever we can to move it on. I think it's only fair and right that we do meet with the management of Rosemount Resource Centre and hear what they have to say and offer whatever support we can with the department and with our officers to try and move away from what's currently going on up there. I can't begin to imagine what the atmosphere is like up there or the staff morale for that as well. So whilst I appreciate that the Chief Executive has put plans in place, and I'm sure we'll be notified about that within the coming days, I still would like to put the proposal to the floor so that we have it on the record that that's what we're going to move forward and do, Chair. So with your indulgence, I put the proposal before the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Do you have a seconder for that proposal?
I certainly hope so.
Councillor Farrell.
Farrell, thank you. Everyone sees the proposal on the floor. Is there any objections on the proposal? I take it that as passed, silence is virtue. But before we move on, Sharon, I want to say thank you for coming to our meeting today, and I'm sure you will go away and we would all agree here with the committee and yourself that there is one goal here. There are issues, a number of issues raised here today. I'm sure there are many more, but you know what we're here is what I see what's unanimous across the members here today is that we want these issues resolved and this facility and Rosemount returned to a fully functioning and vibrant facility for the community and Rosemount. And I see that's the goal of everyone today. But Sharon, once again, thank you for coming on board today and answering questions. And you can stay on, but you can leave now if you want to.
No problem. Thanks, Chair. And
thank you very much,
Sharon. Everybody. No problem. Thank you. Bye.
Members, do we want to take a 10 or a wee comfort break now? What's the feeling, or do you want to keep going? I think silencers keep going. We move on now to the next item of business was item 11, extended Sunday trading hours, and I guess Seamus is going to take that.
Thanks, Chair. Members, Council has been facilitating requests from large shops to extend opening hours on a Sunday during the pandemic, and members are asked to consider whether this arrangement should continue on a temporary basis at this time. The report outlines the relevant legislation, including the times which large shops can open on a Sunday. And as a result of the legacy Derry City Council area being designated as a holiday resort, large businesses can have extended opening hours on up to 18 Sundays between March and September. To date, the received requests to facilitate Sunday trading have been to help facilitate COVID-related management arrangements such as social distancing. And members, as mentioned earlier, these requests have been facilitated on a temporary basis, and our members are asked to consider the retail union's position, which is outlined in Appendix 1, and consider the two options outlined. which include to continue facilitating requests on a temporary basis for extended opening hours between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. with additional managed opening hours for key workers while the pandemic is in place, or Council reverts back to enforcing the current regulations, which permits large shops in Strabane to open between 1 and 6 p.m. and permits large shops in Derry to open anytime on 18 Sundays between March and September, as it has been designated as a holiday resort.
Thank you, Seamus. Do we have any speakers? If nobody's going to speak, could I have a proposer for the recommendation? Councillor Harkin?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Seamus, for the presentation. Seamus, did you talk to somebody from the trade union? Because I know that they've said that they've been very pragmatic during the pandemic in terms of not standing in the way the longer hours on a Sunday. But it seemed like they were. When I read their response, it wasn't clear to me if they were saying go ahead, this is okay, or if they were basically raising an objection. Can you maybe clarify?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Councillor Harkin, we were communicating via email and telephone, and it's probably fair to say that the trade union feel that at this stage there's probably no need to facilitate extended opening hours. And for members' information, during 2021 we received 24 requests, and again that covers a large number of different types of premises, largely the big stores such as Tesco, SuperValu and Poundland, etc. So really, members, what we're asking is, do you want to continue with facilitating extending opening hours or revert back to enforcing the current position?
Do you have any other indicated speakers? Councillor Harkin, do you want back in again?
I do, Chair. Yeah, look, thank you, Seamus, for the clarification, because that was helpful, because it wasn't quite clear to me what the trade union was saying. And look, I think this is important because the unions are taking feedback from retail workers, they're taking feedback from people who have been frontline workers, who have had no problem or who have done the extended hours over a period of time. And I suppose where they've been very willing and flexible and pragmatic about it, as they've said. So I think that's important. And yeah, I'm personally, I'm not so sure now about the need for extended hours on a Sunday. It doesn't. I think we're in a different. One second. Can you just put that on your ear? Yeah, put it up your ear. Yeah. Okay. 1 second. Sorry about that. That was Tractor Tom came to an end. So yeah, I mean, I would be happy to hear maybe.
Are you there, Councillor Harkin?
Sorry, folks. My apologies, genuinely. I would be eager to hear what other members think, and I would be happy to put off the decision today for more discussion. And I would like to speak to. I haven't spoken to USDAW reps in advance, but I would be eager to do that now. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Michaela Boyle.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, no, just to make the comment, I mean, obviously, extending the Sunday opening hours, or continuing to extend the Sunday opening hours, I know in my own personal opinion, I would support that. I do have a family member who has family, and the extra hours on a Sunday helps the family because the partner is there at home and they don't have to kind of, you know, they're not out the cost of childcare costs, you know, on a Sunday. So that wee bit extra few hours on a Sunday, you know, helps that family, helps the income coming into that family home on a Sunday, you know. So and both parents work in retail. So they can be flexible on a Sunday, you know, in terms of their hours. And it's probably the only one day a week they can do that without being out the added financial burden of childcare costs. So I just thought it was important to make that point, just on that, how families feel in terms of the extra hours on a Sunday. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle, for that. Councillor Rachel Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, this is one I just need a wee bit of clarification on it, because the recommendations is the council continue with the temporary requests, which would allow the stores to open on a Sunday. And I know how important Sundays are for retail workers working in retail myself. I know it's probably the only time that they do end up having a bit of a break in the morning and they're home after dinner, and they can be precious. But I do see that the other recommendation is that we revert the enforcement provisions to the shops, but it only seems to affect, from my reading, the Strabane area, because large shops and dairy may open at any time on a Sunday, on up to 18 Sundays anyway, between the 1st of March and 30th September. So I'm wondering, just to clarify with Seamus, if we were to revert it back, does it mean that it would only impact really the Strabane shops, or would it impact all shops in the district? I do believe that we're still in the pandemic, and we need to really try and put as many mitigations in place so that we can keep social distance in stores and stuff. But I also understand where the union are coming from, because it has been a long time, you know, it's nearly 2 years where shops are getting used to the queuing systems and having things in place. So I also am content to go ahead with a temporary facilitation, because it is temporary and we can review it any time. But I just wanted to clarify with Seamus, if we go for 5.1.2, does that just mean that the because I could be reading it wrong, but it just seems to say that it allows large shops in Strabane area to open any time between. So just checking, Chair.
Seamus, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, Chair, I suppose if we revert back to enforcing the current regulations, yes, all the shops across both areas will be able to open between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. And the Legacy Dairy City Council area between March and September would be able to have extended opening hours, and that's normally between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. For 18 Sundays during those months. So as it currently stands, any of those businesses that are making the request are probably operating between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. rather than the 1 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you very much for that, Seamus. Councillor Ferguson, does that answer your question?
It does, Chair. So it means basically the shops in the city would have to close from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. until March, and then they could open up again the 10 till 6. That's fair enough. Thank you.
Were you were nearly out of proposal there, Councillor Ferguson, the last time, but I'll leave it up to yourself.
Chair, I'll wait and just give me a wee minute to think about it there. Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. Any other speakers? Alderman McClintock.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. As I said earlier, not a member of the committee. I suppose my concern, or my feeling, is along the same lines as the unions on this. I think that in many cases, workers are put under pressure to work on a Sunday, and the impact on family life is tremendous. I think workers deserve to have a day off in the week where possible. Obviously not possible for everybody, but I think the impact on family life is very, very important. I think actually it's a bit of a red herring in a sense to say that this is COVID related, because what I'm certainly seeing in the shops at the moment, there's no queues in shops, there's no particular issues in shops. You know, I don't think we need Sunday opening as a result or as part of the initiatives to do with the pandemic. I really don't feel that there are that many people in the shops, and I think that all that this will do is spread out the people who would come along the other 6 days onto another day. And I know that 1 or 2 shops that I have spoken to people in, and they have said it's hardly worth their while some days being open at all. So I'm inclined to be very much with the unions on this, and to support the workers and family life. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman McClintock. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Seamus, for the report. Our view is that we changed this on a temporary basis because of the COVID pandemic, and anybody that's looking at the news realizes that we're not out of this yet. So the pandemic is very much a live issue. The reason for allowing earlier opening hours was to allow key workers who may be working on a Sunday afternoon and doing strange hours and doing overnights, to give them that bit more flexibility when doing their shopping. Our view is that that hasn't changed. If we implement 5.12, that means that people living in the Strabane area will not be allowed to shop any earlier on a Sunday. And we think that disadvantages key workers based in Strabane or who want to shop in certain establishments in Strabane. So our view is that we keep 5.11, which is that we temporarily facilitate requests or notifications for large shops across the entire council area, so that people in Tyrone have the same opportunities to shop as people in Derry. Thank you.
Is that a proposal, Councillor Farrell?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that proposal? Is there a seconder for the proposal?
Councillor Edwards.
Councillor Edwards. Any other speakers on the issue before? Well, members, it has been proposed and seconded. It has been proposed by Councillor Farrell, and I think it was Councillor Stephen Edwards seconded it. So, any objections to this? We take that as passed. The recommendation
I'm
is passed.
abstaining on this, Alderman.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other against or abstentions? Thank you. We move on to item 12. Next steps for housing policy in Northern Ireland.
Yes, Chair, I'll take that. Members, the report provides details of a virtual conference on housing policy in Northern Ireland, which takes place on the 7th of February. You'll be aware that the Housing Society is also providing a training session on social housing tomorrow. And some members who attended the Civic Forum meeting yesterday will have received an update on the homelessness strategy, which will be published in April. The conference will provide information on the housing supply strategy, tackling homelessness, addressing housing supply, and improving the quality of housing. A copy of the conference details is attached to members in the committee papers, and the recommendation is the committee approve attendance for up to 3 members at a cost of $210 per delegate.
Thank you, Seamus. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Seamus, for the report. And I really do appreciate that. And as a party, we would like to nominate Councillor Patricia Logue. I'm aware that it was Patricia that brought the conference to the attention of council officers. I would also just like to comment, Seamus, that I did attend the Civic Forum yesterday, and as somebody who works in the housing and homelessness sector, I found it very useful. So I really appreciated the presentations and the discussion that took place yesterday. So it's good to see the Civic Forum continuing and good, valid, up-to-date information being provided at it. But as a party, we would like to nominate Councillor Logue. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak or nominate? I think we have to approve attendance by a maximum of 3 first before we nominate. I think, am I right saying that, Seamus?
Yeah, I'm happy to propose that.
To propose, that's helpful, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Harkin, do you want on this?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, look, the issue of housing is crucial, and I think everybody agrees that we've had too many lost years of not building enough social housing and of not having the housing executive be the builder of social housing. And you know, it's reached a massive crisis point now. We have nearly 45,000 people on the housing waiting list, and we are here in Derry and Strabane have the highest number of people on that list. So I think that our council has taken very, very clear positions over a number of years about defending the housing executive, about urging Stormont to act to allow the housing executive to remain a public body and also to build the houses that we need. You know, my concern here is, look, the bigger parties here will have no problem sending a couple of reps to this, paying for the reps to go. They're already represented. I mean, I see, you know, Sinn Féin certainly represented. They have a minister speaking. I don't see the whole list. You know, it looks a bit exclusive to me. I don't see any trade union representation. And this is the problem with these privately run events. There's lots of them, and they take up very important issues. Obviously, £210 is not a cost that an individual might be able to bear in the district right now. And so it seems, and the fact that we're only proposing 3 people means that who gets to go from this council? Is it just, you know, the 3 people with the first proposals in? So I'm a bit unsure about, I would like our council to be represented, but I would like our council position to be represented, because are people just going there to listen? I mean, I'd need to hear a bit of a motivation about why we're going to spend this money, and then the fact that if every party wants to have a representative from the council going, how are we going to, what would be the proposal to move that forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Your comments are noted on this recommendation here, but it has been proposed by Councillor Duffy and seconded by Councillor McGinley on the issue, but your comments are noted. And look, do we have any other nominations today? Or could I ask that any other nominations be forwarded at full council? Is everyone happy with that? No speakers on it, so other nominations can come forward at full council. Let's move on to the next business. Item 13 to item 18 are for information. Does anyone want to speak on any of those items? Just drop them into the chat box. I don't see any, so we move on. And do we have a proposer that we go into confidential?
So proposed, Farrell.
Thank
Seconded,
you.
Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Karen, could you just tell us when we're in confidential? Or